Good afternoon folks, and welcome to another video. And in this video we're going to talk about winterising the van. So this is the second year that we've had a van and we're kind of getting used to it now. And I know the first year that we done it, we were so worried about what we had to do. How do we make sure the pipes don't burst? How do we make sure everything stays dry and all those sorts of things? So what I'm hoping to do with this video is just highlight what we do. I'm not saying that what we do is perfect and it's the way to do it, but what it has done is work for us and it seems to be okay. I'll take you through what we do. All right then, so let's have a little look at our van and just talk through some of the things that we would do to winterise the van. We use the van quite a bit during winter, and so we'll be away for the next couple of weekends, I think, maybe, and we tend to go away over Christmas sometimes, just generally into January. So through January and February last year I used the van quite a bit. I went away on a couple of solo trips. We don't leave the van locked up for long periods of time, so I'm going to break this into two things which you need to think about if you're going to put the van, say, in storage, or you're going to just use the van through winter and maybe not have to lock the van down totally for a period of time. Right, so let's get into it then. So in the back of the van then, let's just talk about some of the things if you are going to lock the van down for a period of time. So the obvious thing then is to take the bedding out and the mattresses. Take those out, pop them inside, because it will just keep it dry. Obviously the duvet as well. And here's another couple of examples. I've got a couple of books up here. Absolutely those, take those inside. And all things that have got a material thing. So this, if you're permanently or over winter locking the van down, take these things out of the pictures because they just don't get a chance to dry out. And it's quite surprising how damp these vans are. So if you look at my meter here, so we are, I think, where are we? The 8th of November, and it's unusually warm, but it's a 77% humidity in the van and it's 11 degrees. So you can start to get a feel of how damp the van is. And I've seen that go up to, I think it was like 90% humidity. So yeah, so something to think about. So you're going to take all the material things out, your pillows, your cushions, you know, flags, that kind of stuff, anything that's material based. And then, so we have a charging block here that I use sometimes for charging up the phone if we're off grid. I would take the leads out as well. I'd definitely take that out. You don't want that getting damp either. The television, so if you're not using the television and you can unhook it, definitely take that out as well. In our cupboard up here, so look, we've got some spare clothes that we tend to leave on the van. I wouldn't leave that on the van if I were leaving the van for, I don't know, 3-4 weeks or more. I would take those clothes off for sure. And then coming back through the van, the fridge, what we do here, we can clip this little thingy across here, and what that does is leave a bit of a gap, and that means that the air circulates in the fridge, so that keeps that all nice. So the other thing you're going to do is pop open these cupboards, either put something, maybe a bit of something to keep the cupboards open a bit more. Now you can leave them fully open, but you know, when we've left it, I've just cracked it open like that, and that just keeps the air circulating in the cupboard. So you're doing the same with the fridge. Again, with the microwave, I would just leave that open. But having been someone that has walked into this before, I'd be very careful leaving that open. Coming to the front, you're going to take all these things out, like the materials and the herbs as well. You know, if you're putting out for a long time, then get rid of that, put them inside, because it's too cold out here really to keep things like that. All the cloths, take those out, make sure the plugs are open, that kind of thing, and pop open the drawers a little bit as well, just to keep the air circulating through there. Remember to take out any mats and that kind of thing, because it just helps keep things breathing underneath the mat as well. When we're talking about in the van, it's just a case of thinking about what could possibly get a bit damp, and I should really take that out, because otherwise you might well regret that next year. What I would do with the cushions is basically, I'll show you with the ones at the front, because I don't want to take all that apart, to be honest. With the ones at the front, I would make sure they're not touching, and I would pull them apart and even pop those down there, because you're then creating a bit of an air gap. That's fine, all the air can get through. Look at that, I've destroyed the van just for this video. There you go, it's back. So it's just making an air gap where all the air can get around, which is really important. In terms of up the top here, make sure you don't leave anything up there because that will get damp as well. I would even go as far as to say take the batteries out of things. So we've got a couple of these light things here, which we like. You know, we like having a little bit of a light thing going on. There you go, that's nice. We don't necessarily have it on like that, but there you go. But I wouldn't leave the batteries in there, and some people might think that's excessive. Because we use the van, we tend to leave a lot of this stuff in, not so much the clothes. Right, let's have a look in the bathroom. Bathroom, did I say bathroom? I mean ensuite. So now we're starting to get into the real technical bits like the water and things like that. I would leave the air vents open here, just to keep air circulating around the heating system. Again, look, I leave a shirt, an emergency shirt in here, and that, it feels cold but doesn't feel damp. We've got some towels that we have up there, so we would want to take those out as well. These towels are only here because we're going to be going away, but if I was storing the van for a while, I would take all those out. Right, what we're going to do now is talk about draining the van down. First things first then, you need to make sure that all the valves are open on the outside. I drained the grey waste off before we left the site that we were on last. I know I'm carrying a bit of water at the moment, so let's drain that down. Okay, so you can see the water's coming out of there, that's fine. Let's get back in the van. Once you get back in the van, you need to make sure that the water is drained down inside. So there's a little dribble there, that's just come out. What I'm going to do here is pop the water pump on. Let's just help the water drain down. So that's going to drain into the grey tank, so that's fine. So we know there's some in there, but we'll wait for that to for the main water tank to empty, and then we'll put whatever's still in the main water tank through into the grey tank and let that drain out as well. The other thing you need to do, you need to find your boiler drain tap, which is here. Now for us anyway, in the Eldest CV40s, you need to bring that to whatever way is open, right? So on ours, it's closed when it goes across and it's open when it points to the front. There you go, you can probably hear that, all the water draining out. You can see under the van here, all the water draining out, which is good news. So we're still draining out here. So one thing to point out, you could probably hear the water outside draining, but the pump's running as well. That's because the pump is on and it has detected a change in pressure, which is the tank emptying. So let's turn the pump off. If we come out here, you can see the water is now stopped. Let's turn the pump on again. There you go. So you can see with the pump on, it empties the system a bit quicker. Just on the pump then, these pumps are not really designed to run for a long time. So you're better off if you empty the main water tank first and then just use the pump to finish off, just basically to get hopefully what's left at the bottom of the tank out. This raises the question then, what do you do through the winter? So if you're going to store your vehicle, you need to completely drain the van down and do some of those things. And I might have missed some, so if I've missed any, just let me know. Just to keep the van fully aired and the air circulating, that kind of thing. And you can always put some of those water catchers as well, which seemed to, I had one last year which seemed to work reasonably well. I also bought out a couple of times the dehumidifier in the van. If you're going to put the van away into storage, great, fantastic, everything's done, and you just maybe need to go and just keep an eye on it. And you should be relatively safe from the pipes freezing and that kind of thing. Now, if like us, you use the van on a regular basis through the winter, what we do is we still drain the water down. So we don't carry or fill up the water tank when we go to a site if it's really cold. I mean, I think our coldest place was -5 last year. Actually, the year before, actually, when we stayed at Winchester Camping and Motorhome Club site, that was really chilly. But what we do, we drain the water down, empty everything out so we don't use the hot water system in the van. Don't fill it up at the campsite, but what we do is just carry on using this. So we use this little can here. I'll put a link down below if you want to get one of these, for drinking water, and that's what we use all the time, regardless whether it's winter or whatever. That's not much of a change for us, and most of the things we do through winter are actually on campsites anyway. So you have shower rooms, that kind of thing, there's hot water, so you don't really need to worry about it too much. There's hot water for washing up. If we do need hot water to wash up, we just boil up a bit of water. That seems to work for us. So we just think that when it starts to get really cold, it's just safer to, because we don't need it, why would we run the risk of having it on and then get caught out with the van getting cold and that kind of thing? I think some people might think that's over excessive, because we do have water heaters in the tanks, which I think come into effect when it gets down to 3 degrees or something, I think, 5 degrees. But it can also use your battery up. But if you're on power, that doesn't matter too much. So we have the heated tanks, but I know stuff fails. So because we don't need to have the water on board, because we're on a site, we can get everything we need, we just don't bother doing it, and we just have one of these, sometimes two. Now if we were abroad, and I don't think the van that we've got is particularly well suited to travelling abroad in really cold climates. You want your water tank inside the van and that kind of stuff, and we were doing off-grid stuff, then of course we would put a limited amount of water in and rely on the heated tanks. But because we're not in that environment, why do we need to do that? But look, I get it, it's different for different people. And the idea of this video is just to show you what we do when we drain the van down. So some of the water should have come out now. So let's get on and see what we do with the taps. There you go, we've still got a bit of a dribble coming out there. So we'll let that just carry on doing what it's doing. So what we'll do, we'll just turn the water pump on and see if we can speed this up a bit. There you go, you can hear the water gushing out of the heater unit now, which is under the van, or the hot water boiler, which is under the van. So that's doing its thing. And if we go into here, we can turn the cold water on here as well. So that will all drain through into the wastewater tank, which is fine. Right, so we can see here that the water is pretty much draining out now and there's not a lot left. But this isn't the whole story, and let me tell you why. So my van is parked and it leans over that side. So what that means is that there will still be some water in the grey waste tank when it's all emptied out. So what you need to do is go for a drive, go around the roundabouts, go around some other left-hand corners, and really give it a bit of a shake out to make sure that you get all the bits and pieces out of the actual tanks. Otherwise you'll be quite surprised how much is left in there, I think. Right, let's get on to the bit about draining the taps then. Taps open, we know that. There's not much coming out of the water heater now, just a little trickle, but there is still quite a lot of water in the van. So what we're going to do now is put the pump on, and you'll see here there's a whole lot more water coming out now. Let that run. You can see there's water being pumped through to the tap still, and if we go to the bathroom WC, open up the tap there, you can still see some water coming through. Okay, pretty much drained out most of the tank now, so let's get back inside and just check the other bits. Okay, so nearly there then. So we can see that by moving the tap, none comes out, but that's because the pump's not on. Let's put the pump on. So it's still a bit more coming out of the water heater outside. Let's show you that. A bit coughing and spluttery, but see what I mean? There's still a bit more in there, so it's well worth running the pump for a little while. So do that when you first do it, and then come back and do it another time as well. Let's just go into the WC, and both hot and cold is pretty much nothing pumping out now. So what we're going to do is turn the pump off. Right, let's turn the water pump off and turn the mains off. What we're now going to do is leave the tap open in the middle, and we're going to leave the tap open in the WC as well. So that's all open. With regards to the loo, obviously we use that all the time, but if it's really cold, we'll take the cassette indoors as well. That's about it. That's pretty much it. Hopefully you found that useful. Don't forget to do your own research in case there's something particularly unique about your vehicle that needs to be drained down. So it may be not just the things I've shown you today, just double check just to make sure. Just to summarize then, drain everything down, open all the taps, put the pump on and push everything through. And some people do actually put an air pressure pipe on there and push all the water out that way. We haven't got that, so we don't do that. Open all the cupboards, take all the material things out, anything that's likely to get damp like books and that kind of thing, take that out as well, and you'll probably be in a good place for next year. Happy travels everyone.